Welcome to Expedient Means with Lin Wei on Time Monk Radio. Lin currently resides in China and is the founder and head teacher of Guizhen Philocultural Society. He has extensive experience in Buddhist and Taoist meditation, Qigong, martial arts, and traditional Chinese medicine. To learn more about Lin, please visit his website at www.guizhenhui.net. Tonight, Lin will be discussing mindfulness, or as we were discussing earlier, mindlessness maybe.
Oh yeah.
Welcome back, Lin.
Thank you. Hello,
I think
everyone.
this is our first. Is this our first recording in 2015?
Probably.
It doesn't matter. I'll just put that in the mindlessness bucket. So,
There you go.
mindfulness. This is something we hear all the time, and I hate to say it, but in some respects, almost has become sort of like a cliche of meditation or a cliche of, gung fu. So, what is mindfulness, and why do we want to be mindful?
Mindful. I was gonna say mindlessness.
I should never said that. We're gonna be tossing those terms around all day.
It just reminded me of one of our recordings back in 2013, I believe, when we did something about profound and mundane. And I kept screwing up the word profound.
Yeah.
Oh man, profundity and whatever it was, I forget.
Profanity
but anyway,
in the mundane.
Profanity, yeah. That was it. Oh, the funny things we do.
All right, focus.
Focus, be mindful. What are we talking about? Well, mindfulness, we hear this in meditation for God knows how long. I mean, I'm only around for 34 years in this body this time around, but I'm sure mindfulness has been spoken throughout the 60s all until even now. And it's been built up so much where people really don't have a set idea of mindfulness. And then when they hear it being spoken, let's say by real, true, Taoist cultivators, whether they are monks or they're really hardcore cultivators and or Buddhist teachers, it kind of just goes right over their head, or it goes in one ear out the other. And they only can grasp on certain aspects of it, kind of like just pay attention, or don't let things bother you, pay attention to what you're doing. But really mindfulness is mindlessness, which is pretty cool that you brought this up before we recorded.
Yeah, it was just kind of a Freudian slip as I was typing.
But then we hear people who say, you can't be mindful of everything. It's impossible to be mindful of all your thoughts and all your emotions. It's not natural, blah, 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 blah. So then it just counters the usual idea of what people think of mindfulness. And then they just still go about their ways. It's kind of like they never get the realization to change something or to get a new interpretation.
So let me warm up the curveball here. So when you're meditating, essentially, and I don't know if this is your view or not, but you are trying to achieve a state of mindlessness, let's say, right? Or emptiness. So how does that correlate with being mindful? I mean, they seem like polar opposites, right?
Well, this is the thing. We're taught to believe that mindfulness means we need to be totally knowing everything that is happening. So then that means our mind is at work. Our mind isn't at rest. So we get confused with the idea that if we're meditating and we have a focus on one thing and then we have a memory of something that pops up, we should accept it and we should look at it and we should entertain it by paying attention to it because we have to be mindful. It means we have to acknowledge that it's there. And if we ignore it or we just continue our focus on one thing, then we're actually not being natural. Actually, that is false. Mindfulness is you're not taken off your focus. Whatever you're doing, that is what you're doing. So right now we're speaking, we're making this recording. Now, as we're making this recording, if I'm checking emails while I'm talking and I'm looking at my cell phone and, brewing a cup of coffee or something like that, I'm not mindful at what I'm actually starting to do or what I had started to do, which is record. and discuss this topic. Or if I'm driving a car and I decide I'm going to put the radio on, start singing, and then look in the mirror and fix my hair and, make a phone call. That's not mindfulness. That's just multitasking. And it's not multitasking completion because you're scattering your whole entire ability to focus over several things. Now, people may think multitasking is a sign of a very smart and skilled mind. You can be focused in several things in one time. But the problem with that is that it is not an option. It's not a thing of having great skill. It's a thing of how much we can scatter ourselves over so many different things just because we feel we need to get it done. It becomes a greedy thing instead of an actual skill development. I just say to people, if you're driving a car, pay attention to your car because that is important. Big machinery. Pay attention. It's a weapon.
They actually I think they did some scientific testing on, I can't remember who it was precisely. I think it was like some CEOs and, so-called high performing people. And they all thought that they were these great multitaskers. And they're the type that would be like the stockbrokers that would be doing 15 things at once, right? And they ended up testing their actual focus. And none of these people were really capable to multitask in the way that they thought they were, right? So again, it's just sort of like being scattered. It's like a lack of when you're focused on everything, you're almost not focused on any one thing.
That's right. See, when I teach my class, be it English or cultivation or whatever, even in English class, I throw in methods of cultivation to the students for developing concentration and focus. But when I'm discussing things with them and then I have them reading and maybe like 3 or 4 children or students are to read something or discuss something, I may be staring at them, listening to them, but I'm in a mode of set in a mode to be, what's the word? Oh, I'll just have to say it, mindful of the whole entire class. And that doesn't mean I'm looking and scanning over every kid, but I'm mindful in the sense of my focus in hearing is unmoved. Okay, I'm not watching them. I don't need to see these kids in order to know that they're doing something. I can hear them. So when 3 or 4 kids are speaking at the same time, reading the same thing, and another kid is whispering in the background, I can hear them because I'm focused on listening, not on what they're saying, but as they're saying. So the mindfulness is in the moment of what is actually happening. See, mindfulness is literally your concentration is unmoved. It doesn't mean you block out every other single thing and focus on one thing. In meditation, we focus on one thing, but if we ignore everything, then we're not focusing right. Because ignoring is putting into play our mind. It's also multitasking. It's taking away from our concentration ability. When you're focusing on, let's say, your breath, and then all of a sudden you have an itch on your butt, and you're like, oh, I don't want to scratch that because then I'm breaking my focus. You already broke your focus because you're thinking about the itchy butt. What you really should do is just scratch it because you already broke your concentration. If you realize you have an itchy butt, your buttocks is a little itchy, you scratch it because you already broke it by realizing that, hey, it's itchy.
Yes, but if you don't scratch it, you're sort of disciplining your mind, disciplining your body and mind, aren't you? Like if
I'm sitting there, put it this way: if I'm sitting there and I'm reciting Namo Amitofa, all right, and then I start getting into this state where my breathing slows and everything feels very stable, like a mountain, and then all the sounds and all the senses seem to be kind of at ease and everything starts to go inward, right? And all of a sudden this big itch happens and I say to myself, huh? I already stopped. I already broke everything. The second you have acknowledged and you have put, I have something happening to me. When you acknowledge something happening to the body, it is I have something happening to me and I should not do it. You already broke your focus. It is done. You weren't in the deep concentration yet, because that was able to happen. Your energy and awareness had moved to that spot. So in the practice of meditation, we are developing the concentration to be in this position where we are unmoved. When we reach that unmoved position, now we are meditating. Beforehand, we are just in the practice of getting into meditation.
I don't know. I still sort of think that
You
I don't
can
know what I'm
train
saying.
yourself to go, I'm not going to pay attention. I'm just going to sit there, and it itches and itches, and then you're still Amitofa, 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 and then all of a sudden the itchiness goes away, and you go, see, that wasn't so bad. And now you put all your attention back to meditating or to practicing. That's fine too. That also can develop. That's just, you can say that is the manual way of dealing with it instead of going, Amitofa, oh man. Okay, I'm not going to scratch. I already broke it. I'm not. All right, fine. Just scratch it. Okay, go back. Until you reach a deep point where your attachment or the connection in consciousness is taken away from the senses. The senses have gone in. So if someone hits you with a bat over the head and you're in that deep state, you're not going to feel that. There's not going to be any attachment to the body being hit with a bat. It's not going to be, I feel pain. It's just going to be you in meditation. People won't be able to break that. That is actual entering, quote unquote, entering, okay, deep concentration, that you are not moved. So the ceiling can fall on you, and it's okay, whatever. I don't even know.
I guess when I think of mindfulness, I sort of think of it more as, let's say, almost like a living practice. So for more of a consciousness practice. Excuse me, I'm struggling with these words because I know they don't really fit properly. But
did I give you a curveball?
Yeah, this whole subject is a curveball. No, but what I'm saying is mindfulness. So, for instance, you think of gardening, right? Like Zen gardening. You're mindful while you're gardening. Whereas in, say, sitting meditation, it almost seems like a whole different practice than mindfulness. And I know you're probably going to punch me in the head for that.
Well, look, Chan Patriarch Huineng, he would pound rice, and he was so into what he was doing that he tied a big brick around his waist so he can be heavier and he could pound the rice much more better and effectively. So he would tie a thing around his waist and just pound and pound and pound and do what he had to do. He didn't think, I could be hanging out with the guys. I could be chilling out doing this or doing that. He was just focused on his cultivation. So in Chan, it is whatever you are set to do, you do it. Don't bitch and complain, basically. If a child has to be to school, let's say I'm a child and I go to school and I have to do homework or I have to do classwork and I say, oh, I hate this, it's so boring, oh my God. That's not mindful. That's being absorbed by my own false thinking. Now, if I sat there and in the class, it doesn't mean I have to be all joyous and happy. That's not mindfulness either. It's just you are in there. This is what you have to do because that is the conditions you are given, and you're not getting away from that condition unless you do really crazy stuff to get away from that, and then a lot of things go haywire. But you're in the position to do what is necessary to be done, what it has to be done because you're in that position. That's it. You just do that. And complaining doesn't change it. It only makes the whole situation a pain in the ass.
So what's the relationship between mindfulness and non-attachment?
When one is mindful, they are not thinking, basically, and they're not putting the sense of an I. There is no I in this aspect. There is only what needs to be done. There is only just to do. Okay? And when there is no I, there is no hazard. There is nothing blocking you. There is nothing deterring you from what it needs to be done. So therefore, everything can be accomplished. So mindfulness is just to be in doing what you are doing without the I. Once there is the I, then there is the I that can be bored, the I that can be angry, the I that can be joyful, the I that can be sad, the I that can be tired, the I that can be eating ice cream and sitting on the front porch enjoying some sun tanning. There's the I of grasping. Once you have the I, there is grasping. There is a self. There is this view of a self, and then it becomes scattered or false. The false thinking goes all over the place. So in Chan, whether it's in sitting, whether it's in motorcycle mechanics, whether it's the Chan gardening, Zen gardening, archery, Zen and sweeping the house, Zen and scrubbing the toilet, whatever Chan it is, it's all about doing what you do and not being taken away from that. Of course, unless someone gives you a call and it's a gigantic emergency, then obviously you stop what you're doing to take care of that. And then that's what you do next. That's all you do. So when it's my son and I'm playing with my son and I don't sit there thinking, well, I could be on my phone checking my news. If I see I'm playing with my son and he's having his own little fun time with his cars and stuff, then I don't have to really sit there watching him all the time. I can sit next to him and just take a look at who sent me a message on my phone and answer my email. And then after 2 or 3 seconds later, just, go back to doing that with him because he doesn't need my immediate attention. He's literally in front of me and he's not going to fall anywhere. It's different. But when we're walking in the street, that's all we do. Walking the street, I'm walking with him. My whole focus is he has to be safe and I have to be safe. So my mindful practice is wherever I am, that's exactly where I am. I'm paying attention to everything around me, not the little ant crawling on the stick, not that kind of deep mindfulness thing people may be thinking. It's really just about I'm walking, that's what I'm doing. I'm holding my son's hand, that's what I'm doing. He's walking, I'm watching him. That's what I'm doing. Car is coming, I stop and let it go. I make sure my son doesn't fly in the middle of the street. That's mindfulness, is whatever you're doing, that's it. You're not sitting there going, walking across the street, checking your iPhone, smoking a cigarette, taking a swig of whatever thing you're drinking, talking to your friend, looking over your shoulder while your kid is running halfway down the block. That's not mindfulness. That's ridiculous.
So when you're walking with your son and your main, I shouldn't say worry, but your main focus is that he's okay, isn't that a state of attachment?
No, because it's someone's well-being. He doesn't know how to make himself okay or not okay. He just does. But the things around us sometimes don't worry about if you're okay. They worry about if they're okay. See, most people create the conditions around them that say it has to be me first, then other people. So if I'm okay, then everyone else is fine. So get out of my way so I can get what I need to get done and go F yourself. And when I get it done, then maybe I'll pay attention to you. That's why people drive like maniacs and they walk like morons and zombies and they ride their bicycles like no one else is on the road and they run you over. They don't care. It can just be in China. It could be anywhere. The fact is mindfulness in caring for another person is mindfulness in caring for yourself. So he's an extension of my energy and my body. So therefore, if I'm mindfulness of his safety, I'm mindfulness for my safety. It's not an attachment. It just is what needs to be done. We're walking in the street. If he falls, then he needs to get up and needs to be taken care of. If he falls and breaks his tooth, am I going to leave him there? Okay, look, don't be attached to yourself. Just bleed yourself to death. It's okay. No, that's ignorance for anybody to do that. But you have people who are like that. People who don't care. That's not mindfulness at all. And that's not the epitome of detachment. That's getting away from what is to be your responsibility given the conditions you created. Remember, we create conditions. We have to take care of those things. It's not attachment to do what is set in front of you to do. It's an attachment to say, I have to do this because I am this and I am that, and this is what I must do. That is attachment. No, this is what is to be done. There is no I when it is to be done. It just will be done. Doesn't matter if there's an I doing it. The I is a person's mind, not the body. The body is not an I.
So is mindfulness, is it primarily associated with Zen or Chan, or is it essentially, I guess, and I know where you're going to probably go, it's in everything, but...
You took it right out of my mouth. Look,
I know, every time I ask these questions, I stop and I pause and I think, yeah, I know where...
Well, yeah, Chan and Zen are the same thing. One is a Japanese word, one is a Chinese word.
Right.
And if we want to throw everyone off, we can just start saying the word dhyana, which is the Sanskrit word or so, I believe it's Sanskrit, for Chan and Zen. Okay? DHYANA. Okay? Now, they're all the same practice. And all it is focus. And that focus is being mindful. And that mindful is I know what's happening around me. The great twinkling feeling of the energy and all the things around this universal world are so wonderful and tickling my skin. No, that's not it. That's just creating a whole entire imagery, a whole like a guided meditation, which will just steer people in very weird directions. It's simply this. If you're sitting and you're practicing chant and you are focused on the eyes contemplate the nose contemplates the mouth contemplates the heart, you are mindful of what you are doing. That is the task you are given. That is what is to be done. If you're sitting doing that and saying, I can just go be having a cup of coffee in Starbucks or something, that's not doing what you are to be doing. If you chose to be in a place, the conditions around it are specific, then you accord with those conditions.
Do you think it would be easier to be mindful sitting at a wall in a cave for 9 years or having your coffee at Starbucks?
Old metaphor, man. Sitting there in front of a wall in a cave, what are you being mindful of? Your whole entire mind. Now you have to put the eye at ease. You don't let the eye be the one that is being focused on. You let the eye go. Let it go. And what happens is now you let the hearing go in. You let the eyesight go in, and all the senses go inward. Now everything that's in that mind gets to come out and go, I'm going to get you. Everything goes all over the place. What you did 10 years ago, what your parents did 10 years ago, everything that happened in your life starts to come over and over again, over your mind. Whatever you grasp onto, that's the one that stays longer. And they just come and go and come and go. And your mindfulness is in your focus of not moving. And you don't have to repeat that not moving. You just do what you do. You sit there and you breathe. You sit there and you focus, and you don't think I'm breathing, I'm focusing. Okay, everything is going away now. No, because that's forceful, and that's not mindful. Mindful is I'm sitting here. Okay, that's it. It's done. You sit, and that's it. It's silent. But nothing is silent until the I is gone. And once that attachment is gone, the mindfulness starts to prove itself. It starts to say, oh, all this stuff is just coming and going as it does. There's no origin to it. And then it's no longer there.
I have a question.
No, you don't.
I've always got a question. Maybe not always a good question, but I always get a question. Do you know, throughout the history of Buddhism, are there many masters that have achieved enlightenment or, a high state of mindfulness while cultivating in like the city or in the middle of the hustle and bustle? Or have most of them been up on the mountaintop looking at the wall?
Well, you got to think over the history, they really weren't big cities unless it was just small towns with a great amount of people and a great amount of business happening, trade going on. Then it would just be loud. In those times, it was ideal to just head out to the mountains, But the true test of your worth in cultivation is when you get into the mix of everybody in society, are you being taken by them? And there were a lot of people who did not just hide up in the mountains. They were amongst the people and they just smiled and just did whatever they had to do, being around them going, thank God I don't bother with this world like that. Now, do I know their names? No. But we have enough examples of that throughout Buddhist cultivation and even Taoist cultivation, yogic cultivation. We should have stories like this. And if people don't know about them, you know what? We have Google. I'm sorry, but we can actually Google for the good of our own soul information that can actually help us. We just have to look. I mean, that's the good of the monster of our time. We have the internet. We can either watch porn all day, or you can actually do something constructive with yourself and save your energy, in essence, and investigate cultivation and teachings of cultivation. It doesn't mean whatever you find on it is going to be beautiful and true. It just means that you have to look and look.
And if you are going to watch porn all day, make sure you watch it mindfully, right?
You're so funny. Jeez. Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
You have to just do that. But the fact is, whatever you set yourself to do, whatever you say it is to be, that is going to be done, you just do it and don't bitch and complain, because that's what you do. And you focus and you get it done. The less we put our energy in other things, the more we can get done what we choose to. Trying to find better words for it, but that's the best I can go right now with that. Mindfulness is simply not the highest end all be all. Mindfulness is actually just the entering of the whole entire stream of practice.
I think one of the main Buddhist cultivation practices is just mindful walking. Do you have any experience with that?
Sitting, standing, walking, and lying. These are practices in Chan. And it doesn't mean when you're walking, you're looking over your shoulder every few seconds, looking up in the sky, looking up in the 8 directions, 10 directions, looking around for making sure whatever's going on around you is not bothering you. No, that's not mindfulness. It's simply just walking and doing just that. So people like to take a walk and they're walking and they don't feel exhausted. It's because they are just walking. They're not adding any more thinking to it. That's mindfulness. Doesn't mean you have to be worried about the guy stabbing you behind your back. That's not what I mean. If you have that intuition of something like that happening, it's because you're not scattering your energy all over the place.
All right, sort of a weird question, but what if you're
what if you're swimming and a shark bites your leg off? You're like, oh, I should have been mindful of what's happening underneath the water, right?
Close. I was going to say, what if you're doing mindful walking and a caterpillar crossed your path and you didn't know the caterpillar was there and you stepped on it? Is it better to be mindful that the caterpillar was there or better that the caterpillar wasn't there?
Well, how would you know if you stepped on it? If you're just walking, you're just walking. Now, when I walk, I'm not just putting my foot down and then switching it and putting the other foot down and now mindful of walking. No, when I walk, my mind is around the whole area that my body is. So I'm literally, I know if I'm going to step on a bug, for some reason I don't have to stare at the ground. But when I'm walking forward and I keep my eyes forward, okay, the peripheral vision is not blinded. That means I'm focused forward, but I'm not consumed forward. The whole, the whole entire area of my sight, physical sight, okay, is not obstructed by my ideal to focus on what's going on in front of me. I don't have to turn my eyes left and right to see what's on the floor. Okay, I've saved many snails. My house around here has loads of snails in the summer. I stepped on 2 or 3 because it was pitch black at night. I couldn't see anything. Sorry. Thought it was gum on the floor. It turned out to crackle, and I was like, oh, crap, that's a snail. But when it's literally, you have some light, I've seen snails, like right when I was putting my foot down. It's just that feeling of something not right. And, okay, it's like you're not sitting there wondering what you're going to do. You're not thinking of all these 10 million things. You're just walking. And when you're mindful, your energy is together. It's not scattered. So when it's together, your sense is stronger. Okay? So for me, it's when I put my foot down, I feel a pressure. And if the pressure is not the pressure of the ground, it's something else, I'll know to take my foot off of it before I totally just crash down on something. Okay, and that's just how the realization comes for me. That's how that whole idea of mindfulness happens, is that I'm not wondering what I'm going to be doing. I'm not thinking what I'm going to do when I get home. When I get home, I just do what needs to be done at home. I know what needs to be done at home, so I don't have to worry about what's going to happen or who's going to say what or how things are going to be. Just that's it. You have a family, you go home. Whatever happens is what happens when you have a family. Don't be a moron about it and just deal with it, right? So when I walk, I know someone's behind me. Most of the time, I'm thankful now I don't have people trying to stab me in the back when I'm walking in the street. But in the past, it has happened several times where people tried to rob me or try to grab me from behind. And thankfully, they were about, I don't know, a meter, was that 3 feet, maybe about 4 or 5 feet, almost 2 meters behind me. And I was able to actually feel something behind me. And that when I just turn around, they freeze and they almost shit their pants. Sorry to say it that way, but they freaked out and they end up running away. So you're not consumed. You are just in what you do. And everything around you becomes not separate from you, because there is not a separation. You just strengthen that overall quote unquote connection between everything around you when you stop putting in the separation, the views of separation. in your mind.
You just kind of answered my next question, but
there you go. Because we
just
say connection, we say the word connection because we feel disconnected. But in truth, we are never disconnected. It's our own thinking that helps us believe that we are disconnected and we have to be in connection with the all universal creamy oneness when we are actually that way. You just have to practice realizing that. You have to practice being in the state of realizing that, because we have so much nonsense going on in our mind, which is not just in our mind, but that whole thing manifests as feelings in our body, in our nervous system, in our senses, which create our whole entire concept of the world that we experience, or we say we experience. When that is not ruling over the quote unquote you, then you realize that overall connection. This is what cultivation is for.
Well, you just took away all my fire and all my thunder.
Good. I think we fixed up several thousands of years of confusion on mindfulness in 40 minutes.
No, and I mean, it's like it's hard to explain. It's almost paradoxical, like that when you are doing, say, mindful walking, or mindful walking in nature. It almost, I'm trying to think of the proper words to express it, but you almost get the sense of like there's you and then there's nature. But when you're doing this mindful walking, it's like the two, and again, I don't want to say cliches and stuff, but it's like you are one with the environment, right? and again, and this is sort of just different words for what you just said, but
yeah, just put it in ways that people can associate with and comprehend. Because if we say it without those things, people won't get it, or maybe they'll find it too far out for them. Simply, it is because we believe that there is a disconnection, because we believe there is an I, and that we have to break the I, or the overall Godhead that we have to attain or something, we create this view or this experience of a disconnection. Therefore, we have to get reconnected. So when people run away from the city and go to the nature, or go to the countryside, and they go, I feel so connected with nature, and they go to the city and they feel disconnected, is because they don't realize that there is no such thing as a disconnection. No matter if you're in the city or you're in a friggin' volcano burning yourself up, you are connected to nature and the universe and the earth and all these things around you, because it is all together. Just because you got a physical body doesn't mean you're disconnected. It is your own thinking, because it is all part of your mind. Whatever you assume, whatever you think is what you experience, it all comes from the mind. So when we think,
forget it, keep forgetting it over and over and over, right?
Habitually. People want to say this human condition, human nature, but it's not. And when people that say something about human nature, tell me, how the hell is it human nature? It's not. It's all conditioning. This whole thing of all these concepts about how we live our world, how we live in our world is all conditioned. We are taught these ways from our childhood, by our parents, by our TV, by our music, by our friends, by our society, by our environment and the people there. All these things influencing us. So when people start doing meditation, or they go into the self-reflection mode, and they start wondering, why do I have these ideas? I don't know. Why do I have these thoughts? Why do I have these habits or whatever? It must be from a past life. No, actually, you've had millions upon millions of influential aspects hit you as a child, while you were in the womb as well. And before that, while you were a sperm, and while you were the egg in your parents' bodies, before they got put together. Whatever influence your parents had, whatever influence they've had, it influences you when you are being merged as a sperm and an egg. These energetic things are influencing your whole entire growth as a human. So when that energy is, prenatal, when that energy is combining together and creating this big bang in the mother's womb, big bang in the mother's body, all that energy from those parents' lives and the lives that their parents had are combining right there. And whatever energy that vibrates on, whatever level of vibration that energy is on, it attracts whatever coincides with that level of energy. So our whole entire existence is based on that whole charge. And our whole entire reason for cultivation is to go back to that charge and realize those conditions and let them go.
This is kind of a segue, but something you said kind of spurred a thought in my mind. And that's when a lot of people cultivate, they feel the need, I have to dredge up my memories of my past lives, and I have to figure out the karmic knots that I've tied, and once I pull all these memories up, then I can deal with everything. And I think that's just a big trap. I mean, I don't think you have to do that. And I'm not saying those things won't sometimes happen or you won't get flashes, but I don't. Do you really think it's necessary for people to go digging for that, or should they just do, and then those things will sort of take care of themselves?
Yes, you just do. You don't have to go into every single small thing, because what you're doing is just adding a head on top of a head. You're adding more force to those things. You're adding more power to them. So let whatever has enough momentum come up on its own, and then you tackle it from there. That's why cultivation is a lifetime thing. It's not a 20 years and all of a sudden you're some master. You can be labeled a master by people, but you still have a few quips and quirks to you, that you got to fix up. But that's what cultivation is about. You just have more experience in cultivation and opened a little bit more and realized a little bit more of your wisdom than most people, so they consider that to be masterful because it's way above their heads, which is okay. That's totally fine. Let it be that way. It's okay. But the fact is that you still have a lot of work to do. We still have to do a lot of work.
All right. Well, why don't we start to wrap it up? And do you, since we got everything figured out now.
Oh man! That's
so,
great.
As usual, what would you recommend for people as far as mindfulness practice? Do you think the nature walking's good, or what's your recommendation?
My recommendation is everyone simply do what you do every day. And don't complain about it. Don't think of other things while you're doing it. You don't have to go for nature walks. You don't have to go, vine swinging. You don't have to go through hiking to find that shaman, to find your connection to the all great spiritual wonder of the whole entire universe. If you're driving, if you're working in an office, if you're on the toilet bowl, whatever you're doing, just do that. And don't scatter your energy. If you can maintain your concentration, you can maintain your focus on what you do, then that's the greatest step you can do for now. And then you can start applying that to sitting. You can start applying that to standing. You can start applying that to walking as a specific practice, so you can amplify, magnify your ability to concentrate on something. That's important, because if you don't have that general fuel, then all the sitting meditation really is just a waste of your time. If you're sitting, okay, I know I'm going to be peaceful, I know it's going to be nice, and you sit, and you still get angry, and you still get, pissed off and greedy, and you do ignorant things or stupid things at the people around you because you feel they're bothering you, then you didn't get anywhere. So as long as we still have that, it's not anything. It's just useless. If you cannot focus when you're doing everything that you do normally, and you are taken by everyone, doesn't matter how much meditation you do and how much recitation you do, you're not getting anywhere. So it's best to just do what you do every day and do that. Pay attention to yourself. Pay attention to what you do, and just do that.
And then once you get full power of mindfulness and concentration, you can rule the universe with an iron fist.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. It's so funny.
Oh, you know what? I totally forgot to get us a quote for today.
That's okay.
Anyway, well, thank you, Lynn. And thanks,
Hey.
everybody, for listening to Expedient Means at Lynn at Way and Time Radio. Please be sure to join us next week as we discuss eliminating the imposition of one's will on others. Or how not to rule the universe with an iron fist.
There you go. Thank you.